Yo, welcome back, children of the covenant. So glad you can join us today. It's a very special day. We have a video suggestion from one of you guys, and it's a car that I didn't know existed, at least to this extent. I am so thankful for your suggestion. If you guys want more videos like this, make sure you leave your suggestion in the comments and I'll make a video about it. Alright, without further ado, the video of today's topic is the Ford Capri. However, not just any Ford Capri or Mercury Capri, technically. It's the McLaren ASC Capri. This Capri is by far the most unique of the Capris, but before we get into that spin-off collaboration, we gotta talk about the basics of the Capri first. So, this car was developed and marketed as kind of like an American import, even though it was domestically made. They kind of tried to make it more like European styling. And it didn't really work so well, and because the people that liked European cars just bought Germans and British cars, they didn't need or want a Mercury. And the people that wanted a sports car from America were gonna buy a muscle car, not this weird European box shelf thing. They just weren't okay with it, and so it didn't sell that well, which is a lot like the Isuzu Impulse, which if you want to hear more about that, watch this video up here. But it was not selling well and it was not received well. However, McLaren still saw potential in it, and as well as the designer named Peter, I don't remember his last name. However, in 1984, Peter Muscat decided he saw inspiration in this car and he wanted to work with Ford to produce a completely convertible option, which would require a convertible hatchback style soft top. And this required the entire body to be reworked from the ground up to accommodate such a weird modification to the car. And so that was when the ASC Capri was born. But at the same time, when Peter Muscat came to Mercury, McLaren somehow saw some potential in this car too. And so McLaren comes to Mercury and they're like, yo, can we collab with you? And Mercury's like, sure, man, go ahead. And so McLaren throws suspension parts and wheels on the car while Peter Muscat works primarily on the body of the car. So these three masterminds create what is now known as the McLaren, or the ASC McLaren Capri. The first iteration of this was created in 1984, and it still shared the V8 from the higher trim of the RS Capris, which was a 5-liter V8 producing 175 horsepower. The base Capris had a 2.3-liter turbo option, but that was not an option on the ASC McLarens as far as I'm aware. Now, going into 1985, which was the first year this car really was any different, aside from some slight styling changes and wheels and suspension. This was the first year where they said, let's look at the engine and performance and let's make this an actual performance car. And now you have to keep in mind, this was still in the early days coming off of the oil crisis. So technology was just not up to standard like we have today. And they were also facing super strict emissions tests and regulations from the government. However, they were still able to produce 210 horsepower out of the same 5-liter V8 by upgrading the camshaft. But the trick was getting more power out of this engine with existing Ford components, because Ford had to keep this car under warranty so that customers would still have that assurance and dealers would still be able to give them that servicing. They couldn't just throw in a whole bunch of McLaren parts that they didn't have on stock to ensure and warrant. So they had to come up with some more creative alternatives, but they were still able to produce another 35 horsepower out of this thing, which is really impressive for just a camshaft. In addition to some engine performances, the ground effects saw a massive uplift, and in my opinion, I think much for the better, including some pinstriping. This new second iteration was beautiful, massive increase for just 1 year of design. Now, unfortunately, 1986 will be the last year of the Capri, and hence the ASC McLaren Capri will be coming to an end this year. So they wanted to go off with a bang, and by a bang I don't mean monstrous more amounts of power. I just mean something that was actually reliable and improved the quality of driving experience for a one-off sports coupe that was not only branded as a domestic import, but also had some foreign collaborators with it. So McLaren and Ford and Muscat got together, and I think Ford did most of the work for the engine, but Ford produced a new non-carbureted, non-crossfire, also known as misfire injection engine, which were the two options that had previously been available, and created a SEFI engine with the same 5-liter displacement, and then it produced a whole lot more horsepower, but it greatly increased the reliability and sustainability and quality of driving experience that this Capri had. Now, I must say, it still wasn't a desirable car, but the ASC McLaren, because it had the McLaren name in it, was by collectors from the time of its conception relatively sought after and rare. In the 80s, it was worth about $25,000, which is not a small price by any means in today's standards, but especially then when the dollar was worth about 3 times more than it is now. However, thankfully to our great friend depreciation and as well as gatekeeping, these cars have not really gone up in price at all. Technically, they've gone down. They are still hovering around $25,000 for a McLaren, or kind of a McLaren. I think that deal right there is something that you would be a fool to pass up on. And if I had 25 grand laying around, I would already be heading over to Cars and Bids to get notified about when the next one comes up for auction. I am not sponsored by Cars and Bids, but I think using Cars and Bids, a notification system, is probably the only way that you'll be able to find one of these cars. Same way with the Isuzu Impulse. And that's really all that really happened for the ASC McLaren Capri, because it only had a 3-year production, and in that 3-year production only 874 units were produced. Later, Peter Muscat started working with Ford on the Fox body Mustang, which the Capri was the sister and predecessor to. However, McLaren and their collaboration on the Capri fortunately came to an end this year, and this car has since became a huge collector item, but still not that valued in terms of finances. So really it is your opportunity right now to pick up a bottomed out price but great quality McLaren ASC. Baby it. And this car can be an investment. 99% of cars will not be, but I have strong faith and hope that if you take good care of it, it will take good care of you. Now, if you want more cool cars and more cool history like this, you can subscribe. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe. Rather, I'm going to ask you to let me know in the comments below how I can make my videos better for you and what you guys want to see more of. And if you guys have any cool cars like this that are really cool just in their history or collaborations like this car, or if they have really cool performance and they're kind of not talked about and they're a great budget build, kind of like the Isuzu Impulse, then please let me know in the comments. If it's unique and cool and capable on the track, or just one of those, there's very high chances that I will be making a video on it if you just leave it below. For instance, the suggestion for this video was made 2 days ago, and now you're watching a video on it. So I am so appreciative of all of you who are still watching right now. I love you all, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you. You guys are the reason I do this, and I can't wait to see you in the future. And if not, well, I wish you all to stay blessed. All right, bye guys.